There's been a lot of severe weather recently, and unfortunately, the train of severe storms is continuing throughout the rest of this week, even as we head towards the weekend from parts of the central to the eastern United States with impacts to millions of people. In this video, I've got the details on the incoming storms and more information on everything else weather-wise. Stick around. Thanks so much for joining me. Don't forget that, as always, most of the maps that I use are from WeatherBell. Free trial to them right down there in the description. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel and you want more consistent, accurate, and easy to understand forecasts, especially if you like this video and you want more in the future. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. It really helps me out and gets you those accurate forecasts delivered when I post. And I also do some live streams. Now, taking a look at what we've got going on weather-wise here across the country right now, and as we head towards our Tuesday, April 30th of 2024, showers and storms from parts of the Ohio Valley back down to the Gulf Coast as we've got a weakening system over parts of the Great Lakes states. Obviously, that's the system that most recently brought the significant plains severe weather. My thoughts continue to go out to the people impacted there. Fortunately, we're going to be turning our attention late Tuesday going into early Wednesday to start off May 1st. Might be some very early morning rumbles of thunder from parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, back down to Kansas. Some of that potentially being severe. We'll break that down momentarily. But you can see by the time we head towards the end of our Wednesday, May 1st, another round of showers and storms with a new low pressure system sitting here from parts of South Dakota, but really on down there closer to Texas Gulf Coast region. That's where it's looking like some storms will erupt as we head through the late Wednesday evening time frame. So you can already tell an active pattern getting going, and it's only going to intensify from there. Looking by the time we head towards Thursday, May 2nd, 2024, in the late afternoon, we're going to already be seeing some severe storms ongoing from the morning. Some of those will progress probably through parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana as the day rolls on. Could see more severe weather up the Mississippi River as well towards parts of Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin. That remains a little bit to be determined. No matter which way you look at it, though, looking like some storms in the central United States moving into the Mississippi Valley on Thursday night. By the time we head towards Friday, the models are a little bit off in terms of the placement of their front from each other. The European and the GFS model are trusty weather models, but it's overall looking like as we head through the early morning of Friday, the front will be draped from the Midwest down the Mississippi River Valley. By the time we head towards Saturday, moving through parts of the eastern states here, so likely some quick movement of these showers and storms through parts of the Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley, back down to the Gulf Coast and Southeast Friday going into Saturday. Also that area I just circled looking like our next area of some storms as we head into the upcoming weekend. So you get the point, storm after storm after storm, each storm bringing a little bit of a severe risk with it. And taking a look at what we've got for our severe weather outlook from the Storm Prediction Center for Tuesday, April 30th, 2024, obviously closing out what has been a very active, especially into the month, and we don't need more severe weather, but the Storm Prediction Center highlighting a slight level 2 of 5 risk on their scale from parts of Kansas all the way up to southern and western parts of Minnesota as we head through the late day hours. That's when we're expected to see the storms develop. I even think in that area I just highlighted in pink, we could see the expansion of that slight risk and maybe even a small enhanced risk within there, kind of highlighted by the Storm Prediction Center because of this increased low-level jet stream that's going to be flowing back on up into this region. You see those yellows, those oranges, those reds moving their way out of Oklahoma all the way on up to Iowa as we head through the late afternoon and evening hours depicted on the HRRR model for our Tuesday, April 30th. That is a 30, 40, 45 knot low-level jet stream. That's going to help to bring up some of that moisture, a thin band of it anyway. The limited moisture might be a little bit of a problem here, but overall, looking like we're going to get at least enough energy for modest severe weather. Your significant tornado parameter, a 0 to 10 scale on the models, basically just showing where the tornado juice is in place. By the time we head through central Iowa in the late evening hours, back down to eastern Kansas, we'll have local patches of some 2s, some 3s, some 4s on a scale that goes up to 10 for tornado energy. The ingredients for some wind gusts that could exceed 70 miles per hour. The ingredients for some hail that could exceed 2 inches in diameter. Those ingredients are also there. So it's something that we're going to have to track, especially if you live in these areas in the green, but especially the yellow there from the Storm Prediction Center late Tuesday. Here you go. You can see the HRRR model, just one of our models. Is this going to be 100% correct? No. Highlighting from south central Minnesota to northwestern parts of Iowa in the Fort Dodge area, even the Omaha, Nebraska area where we just had some devastating tornado impacts recently. Some of these zones being where we'll watch the storms through the late evening here, starting around 4, 5, 6 o'clock Central Time, really ramping up here on our Tuesday. Notice, though, it's along this boundary here back towards the south and west. I think some of our more intense storms could develop. So from Des Moines, Iowa, all the way down there towards Wichita, Kansas, we'll be watching the threat for some significant severe weather. Again, isolated fashion, some 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts, some hail that will be near baseball size in diameter, so 2 to 3 inches in diameter. And of course, isolated tornadoes as well, spinning up along some of these cells as they progress towards the southeast through the late evening, heading 9, 10, 11 o'clock, really getting into the wee hours of our Wednesday morning as well. Some other areas, and maybe even Illinois and Missouri, getting impacted by storms. Now, here's my ONW severe scale. Goes from 0 to 7. I'm thinking a narrow corridor of particularly intense severe storms appears likely Tuesday evening with those hazards I just mentioned here, really from parts of Kansas on up through central Iowa. That's why I've got a 3 of 7 for increased risk of severe storms with all hazards there in the yellow, and then a level 4 of 7 in that narrow band from northeastern Kansas stretching through far southeastern Nebraska, northwest Missouri, and into southwestern Iowa. That little narrow band there, that's where I think there's an increased risk for significant severe weather that could be scattered in nature. Moving into Wednesday, the severe threat continues. Level 2 of 5, slight risk as of now as I film this on your Monday evening, issued for Wednesday already from parts of North Texas all the way up there to southeastern parts of Nebraska, as we're going to have a dry line setup. We're going to have some classic setups in the plains here for severe weather. We're going to have that moisture lifting towards the north, and look at the storm energy that's going to present here from parts of West Texas into Oklahoma, even into parts of Kansas. Look at this, 2,000 to 4,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE, and if you don't know what that is, that's convective available potential energy. Basically, the energy available to produce thunderstorms. The scale goes from 0 to 6,000. Once you start climbing up above 2,000, 3,000, you're getting into the significant territory, at least in terms of the warmth, the ingredients there for severe weather, and that certainly looks present over this region as we head through the end of our Wednesday. And look at what else we've got. We've got the low-level jet stream kicking into high gear. You can see from parts of southeastern Nebraska, southwestern Iowa, back down there to parts of north-central Texas, at least a 30 to 40 knot, even in some local areas, higher low-level jet stream, combining with a little bit of the upper air ingredients that will also help and create that lower level spin, the rotation in the atmosphere for tornadoes. And you can see on my ONW severe scale for Wednesday, May 1st, so starting out the month here for 2024 May, you can see more severe weather appears likely late Wednesday as favorable atmospheric conditions and storm energy will be in place from west central Texas, moving through western Oklahoma, central Kansas, a lot of central Kansas, then down there into southern Nebraska. Got a broad 2 of 7 risk on my scale surrounding that. So again, I want everybody to be prepared for the increased risk of all severe hazards here, and you can see that developing late Wednesday, going into early Thursday, May 2nd as well, from parts of central Texas, central and western Oklahoma, moving on up there to parts of central Kansas. So looking like the late night storms will be rocking there in that region. And then notice how the threat as we head towards our Thursday in the afternoon there, the renewed threat for storms, that's going to continue over parts of the Arklatex region there in northeast Texas, northwest Louisiana, southwest Arkansas, then also watching and tracking some storms closer to the Great Lakes. We'll continue to watch that front develop here from really Wisconsin all the way back down to Louisiana, with some isolated to scattered severe storms continuing more than likely along this boundary Thursday through the late evening hours. So there's going to be multiple days of severe weather to track this week, and this is pretty much the third one of some significant storms that could be going on here. By the time we get towards Friday, again, that's when I was talking about earlier in the video with decreased certainty, but it's looking like right now, if you're moving out of the Midwest into the Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley, the Southeast, and the Gulf Coast, kind of a broad area, I know, but these are the zones we'll be watching for severe weather, and eastern Texas could continue to see some significant storms with destructive hail later in the day. So here we go, looking at Thursday, first of all, then we'll take a look at what I was just showing you with Friday. Thursday, May 2nd, 2024, broad area of severe weather is what I'm anticipating towards the Mississippi Valley. The highest area of concern right now appears to be coming out of Oklahoma and Texas, moving into Arkansas and Louisiana. We could have multiple clusters of storms throughout the day there, and while the first one might kind of weaken the potential for the second one, certainly looking like the highest probabilities of significant storms in that zone. Here we go towards Friday. Again, that's what I was just showing you with the uncertainty. Notice how I've got a very broad area with a 1 to 2 of 7 stretching from the Great Lakes and the East Coast all the way back down towards parts of the Gulf Coast and even the Central Plains, because there's, again, really not much certainty in what's going to happen then. What we do have certainty on is that we're going to have a lot of rainfall throughout this week in some areas that have been experiencing dangerous flooding recently. We've got big rainfall from parts of the Central Plains all the way to the East Coast. The totals are not going to be atrocious, but you can see here in parts of the Midwest, the Mississippi Valley, even moving into parts of Tennessee, Kentucky, even Mississippi, Alabama, we're going to see some of those totals exceed a couple of inches, especially with those locally heavier thunderstorms that train over the same areas. Even if you live in the Carolinas, parts of Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, if you get heavier storms later this week heading into the the weekend, you could see some localized flooding. So I want everybody in this area to be a little bit more hyper weather aware as we head into May, because keep in mind that with localized thunderstorms, you can get way more than what your future rainfall totals indicate on the models. Here we go. Temperature anomalies. Taking a look over at the temperatures as we go throughout the rest of this week. Looking to be about 5, 10, even 15 degrees above average through middle of this week, even towards the end of this week, over parts of the south central, the southeast, even the northeastern parts of the United States. That trend looks to continue for an extended period of time, and the cooler air banking up against it from the northwest. Banking up, you can see it over there in parts of Montana, Wyoming, banking up on the warm area I'm circling here. That's what's really helping to create overall that contrast and the severe weather that we've been getting and are going to continue to see throughout this week. Anyway, so let's talk those day-by-day temperatures. Starting with Tuesday morning, even if I don't talk about your exact location, obviously the numbers and the key are on screen so you can see what's going on. You can see up here over parts of Ohio, Pennsylvania, really most of the Mid-Atlantic and eastern Ohio Valley region, we are starting off the day to record warm low temperatures. Yeah, the minimum temperature is only in the mid-60s there. Crazy stuff. Very warm for this time of the year to start the day. For Tuesday, April 30th, and you can see back on off towards parts of the Midwest and areas northwest of there. That's where it's going to be cooler with some frost and freeze concerns in the far northern plains, and then back on up there into parts of the Pacific Northwest especially. Tuesday in the afternoon, you can see lots of 80s and 90s in this area I've got circled here, even some upper 90s in some western Texas locations there, as we've got a big southerly wind that's going to be kicking up. Of course, always check weather.gov for any wind alerts that you may be getting. You can see the east coast of the United States also having a little bit of those 80s hugging parts of the Virginia-Carolina coastline. Tuesday afternoon. By the time we head towards Wednesday morning to start the day, notice this broad area I'm circling with lots of 50s and 60s. If you go down to closer to the Gulf Coast, obviously you're going to get muggier with the mid-60s. Spots up here that I'm tracking in Michigan, even on over towards Minnesota. We're going to have some 40s to start the day on your Wednesday, May 1st, so not too shabby. Lots of 20s, even some teens back on over there towards Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, and especially with higher elevation. This area I'm circling here Wednesday afternoon, that's kind of where you're on the edge of the upper 70s, the low 80s. Notice how far north that line is. We've got plenty of 70s even into Detroit, Michigan, southeastern parts of Wisconsin. Then we've got this big area further south from the Carolinas, Georgia, Florida, back over even towards parts of Phoenix, Arizona. We've got 80s and 90s for the day, mostly mid-80s if you're in the southeast, 90s in western Texas and Phoenix, Arizona. Those would be the more local areas with the 90s there. Now remember, by the time we head towards Thursday, we've got a low pressure moving towards the Mississippi Valley. That's going to bring the potential for some more of those record warm low temperatures to start the day in that region as we head towards our Thursday over parts of the Mississippi Valley, especially if you live in Missouri. It looks like that's where some of the temperatures in the mid to upper 60s will be record-breaking mild levels for the start of the day. Look at this Thursday afternoon. This is crazy. Near 90 in eastern Kentucky, breaking a record there for record warmth. Southeast Ohio, it's going to be very hot. A lot of the southeastern United States in the mid and upper 80s as well. You can see that's where our warmest bubble of the day Thursday afternoon is. Milder the further north and west you go, and you can see that even as we head towards our Friday morning. Not cooling down much in the evenings and into the overnight hours here. Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, waking up to upper 50s and low 60s Friday morning. Friday afternoon, here we go again. There's that line where we're going to be, if you're below it and within the circled regions, upper 60s, 70s, and even warmer than that the further south you go. 4 afternoon highs by the time we head towards Friday. It is just warming up for a lot of the country, and I can really see summer-like trends already beginning in some isolated locations with these warmer anomalies. Saturday morning, May 4th, 2024, you can see lots of 50s and 60s from the Ohio Valley to the Gulf Coast. In the afternoon on the same day, you can see lots of 70s and 80s here. In this area I'm circling, that's where we're kind of on the edge of the upper 70s, and it's some of the low 80s further south in that zone. Towards Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin, some 60s to near 70, and then you could see close to the Gulf Coast, 80s, especially through Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, and Florida. Sunday, May 5th, 2024, look at that, more 60s and 70s, especially if you get down into those deeper yellow and even orangish shades. Some of these zones getting near frost conditions, though, back on off towards the northwestern areas of the United States and even into the Dakotas and Minnesota to start the day on Sunday. And then here we go towards the afternoon, more 80s over a lot of the southern and eastern United States. You get the point. It looks like we're warming up, and man, does it look like it's even going to persist even more. Yeah, here we go. Heading towards the 5th through the 9th of May. Climate Prediction Center, other than the West Coast where it looks to be fairly cooler than average, looking much warmer than average over a lot of the southern and eastern quadrant and really half of the United States there, that region. and then looking above average in precipitation for most zones, so we might keep an active and warm weather pattern going here, at least through a lot of the early part of May and maybe even towards the middle part of the month. That's it for this video. It's about 15 minutes long. If you want more 10 to 15 minute updates just like this in the future, as well as Q&A live streams where I answer your weather questions personalized on the spot, subscribe to the channel. That's it for this video. I appreciate you watching me. Here are the credits, everyone, popping up right now.
One Nation Weather.